Tell me a little bit about your history as a golfer.
I've been playing golf tournaments since I was 7 years old. I played competitive golf at junior level since probably 10 years old, all around my country.
Which is?
Which is Colombia. I was a good golfer. I shoot in the 70s for a 10-year-old, shooting in the low 70s. I played really good golf until I was 15 years old. My golf started to go down, it started to decay, I didn't start playing as well as I used to before.
How is it that you started out really well when you were young, and then when you got into your late teens, all of a sudden your game kind of went downhill?
Well, it all started with me starting to lift weights. I saw how everybody else in tour did their fitness exercises. They started lifting weights. I saw how different players on tour looked ripped, looked stronger, and how everybody was starting to get in a zone where they thought they needed to lift weights in order to perform better. I decided to try it out. I decided that if I was gonna do this as a living, I needed to be strong and do what the PGA professionals did. So I copied what they did, and it actually turned out that it wasn't helpful. It ruined my game a lot. I actually started seeing my scores go up. I started not controlling my golf ball, which I did really good in my when I was 14, 13, 15. I had really good control of the golf ball, and I lost that totally.
You noticed that your game started to go downhill about 1.5 years after you started lifting.
Yes.
And we know from working with a lot of pros on tour and other golfers that it takes about 1.5 years for microfibers or scar tissue to start to accumulate in the body enough so that it starts to restrict your ability to move. You start to lose flexibility. Did you try stretching at all?
No.
You didn't?
I thought stretching wasn't going to do anything for me.
And actually we find that once you get microfibers, it doesn't really help that much.
When I came here to Somax, I saw that my flexibility was awful. I mean, compared to the flexibility I remember to have, it was just absolutely awful. Bob was able to help me gain some of the flexibility back. As soon as I gained most of flexibility back, I noticed how easy and better my swing was. I started seeing changes in my ball flight, in my performance, even in school. And I noticed that this was going to help me a lot. So I continue following up with him, and I've continued working with him.
How else has a microfiber reduction helped you?
I can actually concentrate better in school. I've noticed that. Studying, I can study for longer hours, concentrating on what I have to learn. And just normal day, I feel better, more energy, and I feel more relaxed, like nothing bothers me.
Didn't you develop some back pain after you started lifting weights?
Yes, really severe back pain. I couldn't even walk or swing the golf club after some of the workouts I did. So I suffered a lot from back pain, and after the microfiber reduction, I don't feel any more back pain at all.
We know that microfibers form as a result of stress, and one kind of stress is lifting weights, because when you lift weights, you actually tear some of the tens of thousands of individual fibers that make up each muscle, and when these fibers tear, it forms scar tissue, and that builds up and makes you stiff. This is what people refer to when they say people become muscle bound from lifting weights. It's not actually muscle bound, it's actually connective tissue bound, it's scar tissue. But apart from that, we know that other forms of stress, kind of common stresses that people go through, can create microfibers. As we released microfibers around your chest, you remembered some problems that you had as a kid breathing. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I had severe allergy problems when I was a kid. I couldn't breathe properly at night. Not breathing at night was the worst feeling ever. I mean, it's just horrible. You can't sleep, you don't get any rest, and you don't know what to do to get it better. I took medicines, everything, but nothing helped.
Since we released the microfibers in your rib cage that formed as a result of that breathing, how is your swing now different than it was
it feels way easier. I mean, so much easier. The turn, the sensation, everything, it's so much easier.
When you came here, did it ever occur to you that the breathing problems that you had as a young kid would be affecting your golf game?
Not at all. Not at all.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the other stresses that you had. You played a lot of soccer when you were young. It's a very popular game in Colombia. Like a lot of young soccer players, you had your share of impacts with other players. But you also, as soccer players like to do, you headed the ball. So tell us a little bit about your experience with that.
Some of those impacts really hurt a lot. I mean, the ball was coming really, really hard, and it hurt. And that actually sometimes created some tension back in my neck, and it hurt for a couple of hours, and then it went. But I actually found that it restricted my neck from movement. That brought me microfibers, that developed microfibers in my neck, and it actually restricted my putting. So it affected my putting.
This is something that wouldn't occur to people, that you could head the ball when you're young in soccer, which of course everybody does. And then 10 years later it's going to affect your putting.
Yeah.
When you putt now, do you have less movement in your head than you did before?
Yes.
And how has that affected your putting?
I do one putt like it was a job. It's easy now.
As we released microfibers in your neck, that was one of the things that
I remembered.
It just pops into your memory. You just all of a sudden remember it. And this is how we discovered that stress is what causes stiffness, because as we release microfibers, people all of a sudden remember these stresses that they went through when they were young. You also had a couple of falls off your bike when you were a kid. Okay, you rode a bicycle like kids do. Tell me a little bit about some of those falls. What happened to you?
We were riding down, and it was full of rocks, and we were going down the hill, and I lost control of the bike, and I pressed the brake, and for some reason I went shoot forward, and I landed on my hands, my forearms, like I completely landed flat down on the rocks. I still remember all the tension and the pain from that accident, especially that one.
And when we released the microfibers that formed in your elbows and around your legs and stuff from that, what was the change in your golf game?
Oh, completely. I had more movement. Especially in my forearms, I have better lag, and I have better control of where I want to put the ball. I can totally notice that straight up.
Before you came to Somax, did it ever occur to you that a fall that you had off a bike when you were a young kid was affecting your golf game?
Never.
If somebody said, hey, the reason that you're having problems with your lag on your club is that you fell off your bike when you were a kid.
No, I wouldn't believe it.
And if somebody told you that, you'd think they were a little soft in the head or a little crazy or something like that.
Yeah.
As we were releasing those microfibers, didn't you remember all of a sudden the accident? And now when somebody says that Your problems with your leg came from a fall off the bike. Now, does it make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it makes sense to you because you've actually lived that process. When we worked on your feet, you remembered wearing corrective shoes when you were a little kid.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
I was pigeon-toed, and I had really flat feet. So I had to wear corrective shoes like for 5 years. And they were awful. They hurt. I hated them, absolutely hated them. And I found out that developed a lot of microfibers in my legs. I mean, and that actually restricted a lot of my movement and my balance throughout my golf swing.
And how much has your balance improved since we released those microfibers?
Like 1,000%.
And now when you swing the club and your ankles are now flexible instead of being stiff, how does that feel to you when you're swinging a club?
It feels way easier. I feel my legs don't go everywhere now in my golf swing. They just stay completely in sync with everything else in the body.
When you now squat down to read the green, how is that different?
Before, I didn't even want to squat down before because I was so painful. I don't want to. Now it's normal. I could stay there for hours.
Since we improved your flexibility with microfiber reduction, what's happened to the length of your drives?
Oh, I went from 300 yards to 375 yards.
And so now when you play par fours or par fives?
I sometimes can't even pull out my driver because I don't need it.
And how often do you use your fairway woods?
Never. Never. People always told me that I had mental problems, and I believed in myself that I didn't have mental problems, that I was actually putting 100% in everything I was doing, and people didn't believe me. People said I didn't concentrate enough, that I wasn't making the right decisions, that just golf wasn't for me. But I stuck with it. I knew it wasn't anything mental or anything that I couldn't do, and I found out that it was true. I mean, it was microfibers and the connective tissue that was bounding me from performing in my optimal level. So I'm really happy I stuck with it.